Okay, stabilize for the moment. Welcome and thank you for being with us tonight, Thursday, September 8th, for the Berkeley City Council District 8 Candidate Forum. My name is Adina Ishii of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support or oppose candidates or parties. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures. However, this forum was presented by the Voter Services and Education arm of the League, which does not support or endorse candidates. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have all agreed to participate under ground rules set for this forum. You can see the rules on our website on the candidate forum page. One of our volunteers will also put the link in the chat. Berkeley Community Media is live streaming tonight's forum on Comcast Channel 28 and AT&T Channel 99. We are recording this forum and the video will be available on our website, lwvbae.org, on our YouTube channel, and through votersedge.org/CA, with links on our social media accounts at LWVBAE. There will be 5 candidates on your ballot for Berkeley City Council District 8. They are Peter Bruce Dumont, Mark Humberts, Marie Mendonca, Mary Lee Smith, and Jay Wu. This election will be decided by ranked choice voting. On your ballot, you will be able to indicate your first, second, third, fourth, up to 5 choices for an office. With ranked choice voting, the candidates who receive a majority of votes will be declared the winner. Mary Lee Smith will be on the ballot, however, she has withdrawn from the race. And now I will read her candidate statement that she has sent us. This is Mary Lee's statement, and just as a reminder, this is not a statement from the League, so we have no endorsements. This is her statement that she sent to us, and she will not be participating in the forum. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for allowing me this brief statement. As many of you have known, I have withdrawn from the race. I withdrew because, quite frankly, we have too many white, wealthy homeowners on Berkeley City Council, and I would just be another. I saw Marie Mendonca as a voice we don't have. She is mixed race, working class, and a renter. She has lived experience that no one on City Council has, and she's smart, been elected before, and will fight for each and every one of you. How do I know? Because I'm working on her campaign every day. But sadly, on election day, in spite of my withdrawal, you will still see my name on the ballot alongside Marie Mendonca and the other candidates. This is because the city attorney has been politicizing and in a very rare move is opposing my writ of mandate in state court, which I filed to remove myself from the ballot. Sadly, this is because some of my former supporters would rather vote for Mark Humbert than a woman of color, and keeping me on the ballot will dilute Marie's vote. I know that District 8 is so much better than to be caught up in this racism and classism. We can be the Berkeley we want to be and the Berkeley we should be. Candidates like Marie Mendonca will help us get there. So again, that was Mary Lee's statement, not a statement from the League of Women Voters. Now let's go over a few rules for this forum. Each candidate has 2 minutes for opening remarks. The order was determined by drawing lots. The timekeeper will signal candidates with a green colored window, which will count down the seconds from 2 minutes to 15 seconds to go, when it will turn yellow, and then red when the full 2 minutes is up. That will work the same, by the way, for the questions as well. Attendees had an opportunity to submit written questions through our website or when they registered for the forum via Zoom. If you have additional questions, you may submit them by clicking the Q&A icon and typing your questions. Our volunteers will take the questions and pass them to me. All questions will be screened to avoid duplication and personal attacks. The order of answering the questions will be alternated, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Again, the timekeeper will signal candidates. There will be no separate rebuttals. However, the candidates may choose to use some or all of their 1 minute to rebut the response given by another candidate. Following the questions, each candidate shall have 1 minute for a closing statement. Now let's begin with our first candidate. Our first candidate this evening who will present their opening statement is Jay Wu. And each candidate again will be given an opening statement of 2 minutes. Jay, your opening statement.
Thank you everybody. I have we just met last night with Mark and Peter. I don't think I've seen Mary last night with the Berkeley Democratic, but anyway, So long story short, I don't think I need 2 minutes because I have zero public service experience. So for me, it's easier just to focus on the future, I guess. I like to say sometimes that, to vote me is to vote for the future because I don't have a shining record in the public service, zero. My brief case is the brief history for me is just that I came from China. You can tell that I'm not a native speaker. I'm probably the only one with a speaker with an accent. And I came here, born and raised in China, and came here in 1986, and then got my degree, and then 10 years in managerial consulting, and then 12 years in college teaching, and then that's where I am. For managerial consulting, I've been mid-level department directors, and then for the teaching, you have to organize the student. My cause, I think the best way to, I guess, to see my cause is that the JH2HJ, meaning the joint force of the UC Berkeley student and faculty, and then with the city folks, and then H2 means we have two crises, housing crisis and homeless crisis, and the last H means hate, anti-hate. Those are my three top causes, and I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Next is Marie.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Mari, and I am uniquely related to District 8 because I'm a Berkeley native born at Alta Bates Hospital. I grew my formative years in District 8, had my first job actually at a small business called Colby Pharmacy, where I was really rooted and instilled with ethics of hard work and integrity and accountability. The boss there set just a tremendous example of a community member, and it connected me to the value of working in and being a part of our community and being active. I'm a single mother of 4, multiracial family. I have the pleasure now of sharing that history and connection with my family. I began as grassroots organizing with a neighborhood organization called Friends of Adeline, where we advocated to create more equity and inclusion of the voices of all the diversity of the residents and neighbors in our community. And we worked to help fight for Mr. Powell, who was under a predatory receivership and was almost going to lose his home. He was a 40+ year neighbor in Berkeley and a retired veteran. I am currently vice chair of the Housing Advisory Commission, where I continue our work to fight for affordable housing, make sure that funding is approved and timelines are relative to the ability for affordable projects to actually manifest themselves. I'm also serving on the Rent Stabilization Board and an elected commissioner on that board. We have fought through the pandemic to keep folks housed and to support the funding for relief for tenants and landlords. I am passionate about the community. I mean, my heart and my community service is just part of who I am. So I'm running for our district so that I can share that and make sure that our district is thriving and that people are being heard and represented on council.
So much. Next is Mark.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Humbert. I'm running for City Council because I want to build on the progress made by the last 2 District 8 council members, supporting our small businesses in the neighborhood, ensuring public safety for all, which means safety from crime and safety on our streets as we walk and bike and drive from traffic violence, and to address our housing affordability and homeless crises. I'm a lawyer, a degree from UC Berkeley. I'm an attorney and mediator. I think I can bring a balanced and data-driven perspective to City Council. I'm proud to have earned the endorsements of a supermajority of the council, 7 of 8 current council members and Mayor Eric Dean. I've been involved in the community for almost 2 decades, have raised my family here, 2 daughters who are ethnically Chinese, a good place to raise a mixed family. I served as the president of the Claremont Elmwood Neighborhood Association and on the Transportation and Public Works Commissions. I got significant traffic improvements and safety features installed along Ashby Avenue and Tunnel flashers, pedestrian activated stoplights at Hillegas and Ashby, etc. I currently serve on the Parks Commission. And I have to say, after the past week, and not only after the past week, it's been the case for a long time, I'm committed to fulfilling our climate action plan and Vision 2050, 103 degrees 2 days ago in the Elmwood. Climate change is real. As a council member, I plan to work on addressing traffic and pedestrian safety, improving our wildfire and earthquake preparedness, and supporting small businesses in our district. Citywide, I want to advocate for our communities of color, for more affordable housing, and for parks and recreational facilities throughout our city. Lastly, I intend to maintain a collaborative relationship with the University of California. I would feel honored to have your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. And last is, but certainly not least, is Peter. Peter, you need to unmute yourself. There.
Okay, so am I on? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yes,
you're
you
on.
are on.
All right, all right. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the other candidates for running. I am proud to be with you. I want to single out Mr. Humbert for being a mediator attorney. I think that's so incredibly important as a focus. And if more lawyers were mediators, we'd have a better world fast. I'm number 5 of a family of 7 children from Piedmont. And I got early socialization, as you might imagine, from that experience. And I became a young teacher of transcendental meditation in 1972. In my very early 20s, I did some distinguished public service in the sense of volunteering for the public good during the 70s, including getting very close to having the first public funding for transcendental meditation in Alameda County and throughout the country for that matter. And I also have experienced the actually disabling impact of multiple experiences of economic discrimination before the law, or the lack of an office of the citizen advocate, taxpayer supported, similar to the citizen of the city attorney, but specifically for citizens under civil law. And so I am wanting to run for public office and get this issue up into the forefront, and also the implementation and facilitation of programs with transcendental meditation, because it has a huge amount of science and it can reduce a lot of problems on a daily basis, actually, by helping people relax in a very natural and non-political, non-religious way. It's just really great. It's a technique and it really works. So those issues. And then I had to reinvent myself in the 1980s, mid 1980s, with the Cold War on.
Sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Now we'll be moving on to your questions for the candidates. And first up will be Mari. So Mari, the first question, general question. What do you see as the greatest issues that face District 8, and how will you address them?
District 8, some of the biggest issues with District 8 specifically, I know that there's currently neighbors organizing around the changes that have been requested at Willard Park. So there's a big impact that project will have in terms of how that fleshes out. And there are a lot of neighbors that have been organizing around that and feel like they're not being heard and taking into account what the neighborhood needs. Fire safety is a big one, as we've seen with climate going on. The climate changes are affecting us. So making sure that we have the right resources in place, and especially for elders and disabled. Traffic and public safety is definitely a big issue. As my colleagues here have spoken to the crime that happens in the community, and I think it's just a sign of the times in terms of the disparities of affordability and inflation. So we definitely have work to do to work with the community so that we can address those issues.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mark. Mark, you're muted.
Thank you so much. In terms of short-term priorities, one is we have a number of traffic mitigations in District 8 that need to be completed. We have an understaffed public works and transportation department. And so we need to get those things done to protect people's lives as they cross the streets and cycle. Public safety is also really significant. We need to, as we continue with the reimagining public safety process in Berkeley, we need to make sure that we have adequate policing so that they can respond immediately in incidents of significant crime. I think that's critical. And finally, you know, it's right on the edge of District 8, but a critical priority is seeing the process at People's Park completed and 120 unhoused people housed there and 1,000 students housed in a park. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Peter. Yeah.
Okay, and this is specifically the priorities for District 8, is that correct?
Yes, that's great. Correct. What do you see as the greatest issues that face District 8 and how will you address them?
Well, I think public safety has to be high on the list. I see these reports on Nextdoor of scary stuff happening all the time, even in a very prosperous district. And again, for that reason, we have to recognize that all the people matter to all of us. We can't really realistically isolate ourselves, even in rich neighborhoods. There's a limit of how much we can do. And so that's why programs that will help lift all the people, such as declaring our highest civic ideals and making sure that those do not remain in books and papers, but become part of the living reality of each citizen. It's a very, very important project. Just as we cannot isolate ourselves as a nation, we cannot isolate ourselves as District 8. So being a model to declare highest civic ideals for goodwill and honesty and communication is a priority.
Thank you, Peter. Jay?
Yes, I agree with all the other candidates. They issued excellent problems. And I just want to add one thing, following my approach that the first one is J meaning that the joint forces of the UC Berkeley and the city folks. Right now, I guess we all know there's a lawsuit going on between more specifically CKC and some city folks. And then I would really want to try to, it's already in the lawsuit, but I guess, what we can learn from this is to draw some lessons to get more communication before, we go into the court. So mitigate the lawsuit and the legal actions. So in the future, that's what I am working on. Thank you.
Thank you. For our second question, since it's been brought up already, what is your position? And sorry, the next person who will go first is Mark. What is your position on the development of student housing at People's Park? Is there anything the city can or should be doing to help address the situation?
Well, thank you. That's a good question. I did touch on it before. I guess more than touch on it. I think it's a great project. I think there's going to be beds for 1,000 students. That puts a significant dent into the need. The need far exceeds that, but 1,000 students beds is 1,000 students beds, so that's good. There are going to be 120 units for the unhoused, the currently unhoused, and for people who need to rent units at a deeply affordable rate. Going to be 180 beds altogether because they're not all one bedroom units. Some of them, I believe, are 2-bedroom units. So that's a significant thing. The people who were living there were given transitional housing. That was a critical thing suggested by Councilmember Robinson. So I'm in full support.
Thank you. Following you is Peter.
I want to mention to people who have not heard me before that I had a bold architectural solution, which I think is still not impossible in certain worlds. I don't know if ours is one of them, but to make a huge arch a massive arch that would be beautiful, but also very strong and support housing up above the park. And a flexible chain curtain could come down if there's unrest or if there's late at night and so on. So it could be made safe and at the same time preserve the park on the bottom layer. I think cooperation with the university to develop the Dwight Way Hill property should be moved up in priority. And I also think it should be easier for people to make alternative units in their homes to relieve the housing crisis.
Okay.
You next.
Yes.
Are you calling me?
Yes, Jay.
I thought Maria is good. But okay. Yeah, this is the core of the homeless issues and also, university housing issues. I guess it involved both housing crisis and the homeless crisis. I have a, thinking that you really have to solve 3 issues simultaneously. The first one is that you clean up the spot. The second one is to, develop the student housing to host more students. And number 3 is that help the homeless. I think the key, in my view, is to help the homeless. And then once they're happy with where they're going to, and then everything else just goes, fall into this place almost automatically. To that end, I think, you need 2 things. One is that you need to communicate to talk to the homeless people to make them understand. And the second is that you give some financial compensation for the time that they've been living there. They don't own the place, but they do have a long time living experience there. So we can compensate them a little bit, like up to 500. That's it.
Thank you. Mari?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I mean, this was a complicated issue with this city because where obviously we support affordable housing and especially affordable student housing. There are other lots that are already lots that are paved that could be built and used for housing, as opposed to taking up an open space like People's Park. And, we're in the middle of a climate emergency where we're doing a lot of development and building of huge story buildings that are like edge to edge of lots, lot sizes. And those are not, conducive to the type of climate emergencies that we're having. Huge buildings are not productive for climate change issues. So I think we could have thought about this a little better and worked with the community a little more and utilized lots that were already paved over and kept some open space and some natural earth.
Thank you. For my next question, we will start with Peter. And the question is about the climate crisis. How will you work to address the climate crisis in the city of Berkeley?
Okay, well, I mentioned last night, and I'll mention again, this was for another group. The power walls that are being developed are really a great idea. And if we could have some kind of subsidies or, certainly encouragement of knowing about them. These are big batteries that stand on their edge and make, against a wall in a garage or somewhere around the house. And it can store a lot of energy and then return it to the grid at times of maximum demand. So I think that's one great idea. I would look at starting long-range plans to convert all our natural gas heating to electricity. I know this will put a big demand on the electric grid again, but it's none too soon to start planning ahead and converting to solar in that way. And of course, we can all celebrate the stand taken by our California Air Resources Board on gas engines.
Thank you. Next up is Jay.
Yes, I guess California at the state level make our job easier because, from I forgot which year, but from that year on, maybe 2 years later, that California, all the gas vehicle will be prohibited. That make the job easier. But on the other hand, this is a college town, so we may think about the, how the students get around. I guess more and more students are using the e-scooters and bikes. I think that's a good news. A lot of students also just walk. So That's a good news. And then I guess we might be thinking about having a designated lane for the scooters and the bike. Sometimes it's not clear, so we may want to clearly mark up so everybody can feel safe in their designated lane. That's my thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mari?
So our climate issue is really important because I think that everything and every decision that we make, we're going to have to think about how that relates to climate change and the ways that we're being impacted by climate change. And I think we're a little naive in terms of the solutions that we are recommending, because the depth at which we need to understand how any of the choices that we make are actually going to affect the effects of climate change is something that needs to be really researched in many ways, because just simply changing certain things to electric isn't solving climate change, right? And there's many other factors, but not just cars parking or driving. There are corporations that are spewing out lots of toxins on a daily basis. This is a more complex issue, and I would say we need experts and to delve into it deeper before we start making drastic changes that we don't know the effects of that it will have on the community.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. There are things that we can do here in Berkeley immediately to help avoid putting further carbon into the environment, into the atmosphere. One is infill housing. The United Nations IPCC report published earlier in the summer said the most effective thing a city can do is build more densely so people can get around by walking, by transit, by bicycling, by e-scooters, as Jay suggested. And then the other thing is that we can do now, especially if we pass the bond that's going to be on the November ballot, is really build our infrastructure to allow that to happen in terms of transit, to have protected bike lanes, protected crossings, safe features for pedestrians, and found that a few years ago that 70% of the people in Berkeley would bike if they felt safe doing so. So we need to focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. For our next question, Jay will be starting us off. What should be done to prepare District 8 for disasters like the wildfires that currently threaten the area? How will you address these issues to prepare the community?
Oh, that's my my field, because I applied for patent for the wildfire, and then my proposal, my suggestion, my ideas have been accepted, and then for the development, I'm really feeling we're really facing a big issue of wildfire, especially in California, especially when the holidays like this. It's impossible not to think about it. I think there's one thing is the key thing is that we have like a fire dome made of like a fire resistant fabrics, and then to drop from the top down all the way to cover the backyard and front yard. And then so no matter what happened, we can just quickly, when there's a fire alarm, we put it down, and then when the fire is gone, we lift it up, just like almost like a mosquito net kind of ideas. That's what I can think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Mari?
So we currently do have some things in place. The city has on their website where folks can look up where their zone is, and there are emergency resources for people to identify if there are high fire warnings, if they should decide to evacuate. If we create a specific directory for District 8, I know there are a lot of neighborhood organizations that have already been working together to make sure that folks are in communication and have supplies and things, and ability to assist each other with evacuation. So I think if we can create a specific District 8 like overlay, and we can identify those who are most in need, so we can bring in services or resources for relocation if folks need it, and other supplies that folks might need in terms of being able to evacuate or to be safe and have what they need.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thank you very much. Berkeley voters passed a couple of years ago Measure FF, more heavily fund the fire department to prepare for wildfires, because of course we live at, at the wildland interface. So that's going on right now. What we need to continue to do is really remove as much brush and as many of the eucalyptus from our hill areas. The public areas, we should use public money to do it. We should require homeowners to significantly clear brush around their homes. Another very significant matter is to allow for evacuation in the event of a wildfire. We now have a plan for undergrounding power lines on arterials so people can leave without running into live wires in the event of an earthquake or a fire. So we have the plan. We need to fund the plan. It's not insignificant in terms of cost, but the bond will help pay for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
I'd like to just echo that undergrounding. I think that's long overdue, and it will also make our communities more beautiful to underground utility wires. I think more micro neighborhood meetings would be a really great thing. We could even make it a requirement that, certain, little blocks of 10 houses or whatever we want to say that's practical should really meet in person or on Zoom, maybe at least twice a year or something like that, and really get their plans together and feel a sense of solidarity. I love the goats, to clear the hillside and everything like that. We see those a lot here. Paper maps. Everybody should be encouraged to have paper maps in case the electric infrastructure goes down. And the highest civic ideals and meditation will be both great ways to just prepare to deal with stress, high stress, and relax, even under emergency circumstances.
Thank you, Peter. For the next question, what is your position on reducing the Berkeley Police Department's budget and why? And we're going to start with Mari.
So our auditor recently found out that there is an over expenditure within the department. So I think we just need to redirect the resources towards other community services, like for our youth and job training. And we have a specialized care unit that our community has been working on for a long time, which will divert some of the resource so that we can have an agency to call that can deal with mental health, and that we're not needing to call on the police to provide services for those vulnerable community members that might need a specialized unit of care to respond to emergency situations. And so, yeah, so we definitely need to redirect the funding into other community resources to support other services in our community.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mark.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that question. Actually, there's not an over expenditure within the police department. The police department is at historically low staffing levels. The problem is they're all working overtime, and that's not an efficient way to run a police department. It wears the cops out. It increases response times, and it also increases the probability that they might make mistakes if they're stressed out and they haven't meditated. They're stressed out and they've worked long hours. So what we need to do is continue with our reimagining process to see, as Mari mentioned, whether we can reallocate some of the responsibilities that are now with police to non-sworn officers or non-sworn personnel. That's a good thing. But I don't believe in a significant cut in the police budget because I believe it's underfunded at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that joke about not meditating, and I would like to reinforce that it is actually very, very serious. And I'd like to emphasize the point that the whole is more than the sum of the parts. And when our societies, whether it's Berkeley or any municipality or local area, is just sinking money into public safety, but without getting to the root of the problem at the level of all the people and really doing something to harm. So please forgive me if I sound like a broken record, but I want to make this point. If everybody could be meditating in some way, shape, or form, and a lot of people doing transcendental meditation, which has this enormous science and a very profound effect, it's very easy to do. It will have a huge cost reduction influence on the entire population. It's kind of like the radio waves. They're invisible, but they do influence everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Jay?
Yes, I think that following my previous proposal that, focus on the joining force between the universities and the city folks, research is the first thing we need to do. We need to find out the cost reduction and the best way of doing that, and then cost reduction, but without reducing the efficiency, without reducing the benefit and the outcome, without hurting the outcome. This needs to be done in a holistic way. We need expert opinions. We need field guys' input, people from the field, their input, and then we come up with the best solution possible. Instead of just thinking about cutting here, cutting there, like Maria was earlier says that it's not simple. You need to come up with the holistic solutions and then get the best what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind the audience that if you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A. I do have a few more questions though, and we still have closing statements, but just in case folks have other questions they want to ask. So for our next question, the person who's going to start it is Mark, and the question is, how would you address the question of homelessness in Berkeley and in your district in particular?
Well, homelessness is a crisis. It's just a matter of great embarrassment to me, and I think it should be to everyone, that we have people who are unhoused living in our community. We need to focus on remedying that by transitioning them to permanent housing, first to supportive and transitional housing, then ultimately to permanent housing. There's some real promising results with respect to conversion of motels, a motel, the Golden Bear on San Pablo. There are some micro units, some prefab micro units that may be being built on University. We need to really focus on those kinds of remedies. Absolutely. And I do want to say that I wasn't really making light of Peter's focus on meditation. I think it's a great thing for everyone.
Thank you. Peter?
Oh, great. Now I can say that I didn't take it wrong. I can take a joke, and jokes are good. Humor is essential. Actually, it's one of our highest civic ideals, is good humor. I would like to tell a quick story and just say that, yes, making TM available to the homeless is critical because it's going to reduce drug dependence, alcohol dependence, and just nastiness in general, as well as the highest civic ideals. I don't think either one is enough by itself, but the two together, a good civic approach to morality and goodwill, and then a good workable approach to personal stress reduction and mental expansion, are very powerful together. Oh boy, I'm out of time, but I had an experience with a homeless guy, and he read a declaration that I'd written about these ideals, and he was totally pacified from his violence in one day. And it was remarkable.
Thank you, Peter. Jay?
Yes, this is my hot button because I've been paying attention to this for a while. And I think that the first thing that we need to do is that try our best to get the people together, so we can have instead of one guy's living here, another guy's living there, and then make it impossible to provide the full service. Once we get them together as much as possible in centralized locations, and then we can have water, we have electricity, we have a pet service, we have a on-site psychiatrist. Everything has become suddenly feasible. So that's the one thing. The second thing is that, like I said earlier, that give them some money incentive for them to move into some centralized location, so we can have economy of scales. Number three is that have a guy to talk to him and then talk to the people like that. So that's the thing that I can come with.
Thank you, Jay. Mari?
One of the main things that would be like first and foremost helpful is to make sure that we're building affordable housing. Currently, we've been building a lot of market rate housing, which isn't housing low income, very low income, and no income community members. We have to remember that the wages are not aligning with the inflation of the cost of housing and the cost of products. So if we are making sure that we are filling our quota of affordable housing units and no income housing units, then we would see a difference in the amount of unhoused neighbors. We also need to be supporting, and we had a lot of community members fighting to have sanctioned encampments where there would be resources, and also having a place that you can be, and also with a service of preparing them for when they do get housing, and then also sanctioned locations for our RV families and folks as well.
Thank you. For our next question, we will start with Peter. There are concerns about both bike and pedestrian safety from the recent traffic fatalities, as well as the dangers of bikes and electric scooters on the sidewalk. How can we keep all Berkeley citizens safe as they travel around the city? And again, we are starting with Peter.
I have to admit, I'm a little caught off guard. I'm not an expert in that area, except to say that, once again, lower stress levels in general will increase perception and alertness. And that's very important, because driving is a deadly weapon. I had a friend that had 13 bones broken in an intersection when he was looking down at crossing the walk with the light, and somebody was distracted by a cell phone and hit him. So I'm very sympathetic. I wish I had more to say in a concrete way, but I'm not prepared, I would have to say, for that. I need to weigh in on a discussion where I was not just answering the question.
Thank you, Peter. Jay?
Yes, I was thinking along the way, I always emphasize in the working with the universities. I think one thing that they can do is that to develop some map, 24 hours map with traffic accident, not just the crime, property crime or violent crime, but also traffic accident. So a lot of people ask them to put in their smartphone and with them, and so kind of alert them how many traffic, how many accidents have been happened before. So raise the awareness, and then so they could be higher level of self-protection. That's the thing that I can think of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mari?
I think some of the things that we have seen in terms of like crosswalks and intersections that have the flashing yellow lights or the yellow signs that make people be aware of their environment, that there are crossings where people are going to be passing. In general, I think, like people have alluded to, in terms of just the busyness and rushing around, that's just culturally part of the issue, is just, people having to be aware. And I think the signage and the lights and things, and with the crosswalks, help to make people aware. There's a bright symbol and people can slow down and pay attention. But it is going to be a lot of our neighbors, and all of us have to slow down and think of safety first, and be paying attention, and making sure that we are driving safely with all of the other electric vehicles that you said, like scooters and whatnot. Now we have a lot more people, and everyone needs to be paying attention.
Thank you. Next we have Mark.
Yeah, thank you. We can engineer for bike safety. We can build protected bike lanes. We have some of them already, not enough. We can build protected crossings. So when the protected bike lanes cross arterials, people aren't taking their lives and health into their hands by crossing through traffic that's not going to stop for them. So, for example, at Hillegas and Ashby in District 8, there's a hawk light, a pedestrian activated stoplight that detects a bike approaching and turns the light red for Ashby. We need things like that, protected bike lanes, protected crossing. And if we have safe routes, what we found out was that we'll get a lot more people riding bikes. So that's a good thing for the climate. In terms of scooters and bikes on sidewalks, if we have safe facilities in the streets, such as I suggested, those folks will ride in the streets rather than on sidewalks to avoid cars. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, for our next question, and I'm just keeping track of the time, I think we'll have time for 2 more questions. So for our next question, Jay will start off. And the question is, what is your position on Berkeley's Measure M vacancy tax? And please explain your position.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, my question is, what is your position on the Measure M vacancy tax? And please explain your position.
Yeah, I like that. I'll be voting for that. I think that's one of the best way to, without spending any money, or just, because people are, they're housing like speculators and then leave the house empty for a while. And that's no good to anybody. I mean, the owner is not getting money, and the most important, the potential renters did not get any opportunity to rent it. So that's a waste. I have the strongly vote for that, and then any way possible. Is that good enough, or just you need my reasoning? I think I said something reason.
It's to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Mari?
So, yeah, I'm in support of the vacancy tax. As we know, the financialization of the real estate market has, under the guise of a housing crisis and building housing, we're actually not getting housing that's built for our most vulnerable community members. And you have to earn like 80,000 plus to qualify for below market rate units that are 1 bedroom in our community. So the vacancy, and so we have a lot of units that are actually vacant because people are not making or being able to have the earning capacity to afford the units that are becoming available by the development that's been streamlined through state and other processes. So the vacancy tax would be very helpful. We just want to make sure that the funds that come from that tax are going in to provide actual affordable housing, and that we, have oversight for where the funding actually is going to get expended.
Thank you. Mark is going to be next, and I just realized, this will be our last question. So, Mark.
All right. Thank you. The vacancy tax. I support Vice Mayor Harrison's sponsored vacancy tax. That's Measure M on the ballot, and I'm going to vote for it. If there's a problem with many units held off the market, let's incentivize the owners to rehabilitate and re-rent them, or sell the buildings to those who will do so. It's another tool in the toolbox to increase the housing supply. It won't be free because there will be enforcement costs. And I'm hoping that the income generated by the program balances those enforcement costs. Actually, I'm hoping that the program itself and the threat of fines incentivizes owners to put these units back on the market. It's not clear how many there are, but if they're units being held off the market for no good reason, they ought to go back on.
Thank you. Peter?
I would support this based on personal experience observing a property in central Berkeley. I think it had 12 units, and it's just been sitting there for the better part of 20 years in my knowledge. And it's just a waste. So I found out it was owned by some people that had a family squabble over the estate, and so they're just sitting on it. But if they knew that it would cost them extra every year that they delay, I think it would make a difference. It's pretty common sense.
Thank you. So before the candidates give their closing statements, I have a few remarks on behalf of the LWV-BAE. First of all, thank you to the candidates for running for office and for your participation this evening. I also want to thank the audience for engaging in our democracy. For further information about upcoming events, the forums, candidates, pros and cons, and positions on ballot measures, please visit our league's website, lwvbae.org or votersedge.org/CA. We invite you to join the league to help us engage voters and defend democracy. We do so much more than voter registration and education. We work on issues like climate change, criminal justice reform, healthcare, and much more. Visit our website and social media accounts at LWVBAE. The deadline to register to vote is October 24th this year. You can register to vote online at the Secretary of State's website, sos.ca.gov. Vote by mail ballots will be sent to all registered voters from October 10th. Remember to return your vote by mail ballots by Tuesday, November 8th, or vote in person at any of the vote centers in Alameda County. We are now a Voters' Choice Act county. We are encouraging voters to vote as early as possible. For more information about voting in this election, please visit our website, again, lwvbae.org or votersedge.org/CA. You can also see the Alameda County Registrar of Voters website, which is acvote.gov. And now the candidates will make closing statements. We will reverse the order that we began with. Each candidate will have a closing statement of 1 minute. So that means that we will start with Peter this time.
Okay, so once again, highest civic ideals, use of the human hand to illustrate the necessity and advantage of community, to realize that each finger stands for individuality, and altogether they are free, but they're also tightly bound into community and responsibilities for their freedom that actually, when fulfilled, sustain their freedom. So that knowledge and the various things, just like the 30 bones of each hand and all the other systems that support those, have to be explained. We can't just assume all the time. And the declarations of highest civic ideals have been carefully worked out. Transcendental meditation is a fabulous, scientifically proven way to relax, de-stress, and feel better. When you feel better, you spontaneously act better. So these two, in tandem with each other, these two approaches to a better society are going to be really great and impactful. An office as a citizen advocate.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks everybody for participating in this forum, and thanks to the league for hosting it. In closing, I believe I'm the right candidate for District 8. I have many relationships within the district, having raised our 2 daughters here, sent them through public schools, and I've served the district on our neighborhood association board and on several commissions. My connections with city government are wide and they're deep. I've worked with staff in transportation, public works, the city attorney, parks, recreation, and waterfront, and other departments in the city. I have the endorsements of a supermajority of council, 7 members and the mayor, endorsed by Buffy Wicks, Tom Bates, Lonnie Hancock, the Alameda County Building Trades Council, and Libby Schaff, the mayor of Oakland. They support me because they believe I can do the job, and I think I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mari?
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We have to remember that representative democracy is that we work for the people. We represent the people in the community. And to think about that, I'm a community member supported candidate. And I grew up here, born and raised. I have children and grandchildren that have the experience of being and living and growing up in Berkeley. There are a lot of politicized issues that can be addressed on a surface level, and they sound good and look pretty, but the equity and transparency with which our most vulnerable voices in our community and the effects of some of the things that are happening, if you go on a deeper level, like infill housing is the opposite of fire safety. So we have to look deeper into some of the compartmentalized, politicized issues that on the surface sound good, look good, presented as ideal. We have to look at the diversity of the community makeup and the equity and transparency with those folks.
Thank you. Jay?
Yes, this is a league of women voters. I have one word for you. I hope you do a really good job to push people vote, because this year one of the biggest issues is the Supreme Court or the abortion rights. So use that cause to motivate as many people as possible to get into that. That's one thing that I am planning on doing for my CKC freshman student, urged them to do the local vote. And in terms of my qualification, I think I'm, the key thing is that I love Berkeley. My daughter will be coming from Thailand. She'll be living with me in Berkeley, and she'll go to Berkeley High. So that's given me a very good reason to show her around and say this is how good a city it is. And I'm a people person, people skills. We need more people like that to get the problem solved and then move forward. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone, please join me in a round of applause for the candidates. I know we're all on mute, but